Hey guys, do you want to grow your business from 500k to 10 million in 3 years? I can categorically state that the number one method to grow to this sort of level of revenue is to acquire equity in other businesses like yours. Over the last 30 years, since I acquired my first business, I have seen hundreds of business acquisitions go wrong. Some of them are ours, and a tiny number that have gone well. The ones that go wrong tend to follow more traditional methods, and I've learned a huge amount over the last 30 years on how to avoid this. Also, organic growth is incredibly difficult and high risk. Acquisitions, in our opinion, is a much lower risk strategy as long as you avoid a number of pitfalls. Now, there are many ways to acquire equity, and I'm going to explain my favourite option and explain why you should explore this strategy over traditional methods. We call this strategy partnering for equity. So it's partnering for equity. Now, here are the 4 areas you need to have implemented in your own business before you attempt to acquire other businesses. Your business does not need you there to operate it day to day. Your leadership team operate the business and they don't need to defer to you. In fact, they'd rather you didn't come in the office. That's brilliant. Your business is systemized from end to end and underpinned by AI. You should be doing that anyway. Your marketing and sales functions should be world class. And if they're not already, you need to be doing that anyway. If you've achieved the above within your own business, then maybe it's time for you to acquire equity in more businesses. Why wouldn't you? The businesses you acquire should be in the same sector, in our opinion. So if you own a dentist, acquire some more dentists. You own care homes, more care homes. HVAC. Don't deviate and have lots of different types of businesses. It's really confusing. First of all, create a database of around 500 of these businesses when the owner is over 55, revenue between $500,000 and $5 million. We can show you how to do this. It's much simpler than it sounds. Then use, from a marketing perspective, a book like this, Built to Retire, right? One of my many books that I've written. And send about 50 to 100 of those out per month with a covering letter offering to improve their business value and for them to retire better off. Don't offer to buy them. As if they already had 50 letters this month doing exactly that. Offer to improve them. No one else is writing to do that. You can even give them a graphic showing how your growth has come about by your leadership and your systems. Now, you will be offered 100 times more meetings than if you're requesting simply to acquire them. And for every 20 books, you'll probably get a meeting. And out of 5 meetings, you'll probably get 1 deal. Now, those numbers are considerably higher than any other traditional method because you're trying to be helpful. Show them your systems, how you've grown your business, how your business operates with far less drama, far higher profits, and operates day to day without your input. They will love that. This will help them paint a picture in their own mind of them retiring with far more money, knowing that the legacy is being looked after by, well, frankly, you and your team. Now, during your meeting, you can offer to improve their business, and all you need is 20% equity for doing so. 1 in 5 will probably agree to that straight away. The other 4 may take a few weeks or so, or even months or years to come out. It doesn't really matter. Now, you may be wondering why only 20% equity? Don't you need 100% to be paid dividends? No. Now, also keep in mind that you've not had to, number 1, use any of your own cash to acquire this 20% in a viable business. You've not had to go to lenders, banks, your own bank, anybody else's bank. There's no debt. Add it. You keep private equity at bay, and everyone knows that's a really good idea. If you do use debt to buy a business, you don't really own the company. The bank does. This way, your 20% or 25%, whatever you've been able to negotiate, is completely unencumbered with any debt. Now, once you have equity in a few of these businesses, some of them will start to ask you to acquire more shares from them. That's only natural because they've witnessed how much you've improved their business. They will start to see you as the son or the daughter they never had. And you are the only one they will wish to sell to because they started to trust you, of course. This acquisition model is called an MBO and not an MBI. And most banks prefer these. So do I. Most banks will give you 100% of the required funds if you needed it because you've got 20% equity and a number of businesses. Okay, as well as your own if you already have one. Now, we've created a funding method called a secured annuity bond. This is where the shareholders become the funders using a bond. And this forms a much more secure investment than an IFA can offer them. So it's very popular with business owners who are selling their equity. It's not important for you to acquire the equity in the rest of the business. It's not. Because, for example, if you've got 20% equity in 20 companies that you do not operate, but you've helped implement these changes, and the average profit, let's say, is £500,000 profit, your dividend every year is £2 million. And you only need a small family office to manage your equity and manage your position. This method is the complete opposite of the traditional acquisition models pushed by many of these so-called gurus. It's so much easier. And here's, again, the main reasons for adopting it. You acquire equity, 20%, without any cost to you at all. No debt. You build up trust with the current owners before you acquire the rest of the shares. I cannot explain how important that's going to be. You can conduct due diligence whilst owning equity over a couple of years. If you find out that you've acquired a complete lemon, you can drop it. But you can't do that if you've paid for it and you've got debt that's actually associated with it. You don't have to try and repair the business after you've acquired it and the owners have left. Now, you can also probably sell 10 to 20 times more deals because you're helping them as opposed to simply wishing to buy them outright. Huge difference in the results there. And of course, you won't need any PGs on any finance. Now, if you have experience in operating a business, but you don't really have one already, you'll need to spend a bit of time finding a platform business. And again, you only need to acquire 20% equity in that business, so then go and engage and acquire others at 20% or 30% because you're helping them. Now, I hope this helps. And you now understand why acquiring equity in a series of businesses without risking your own capital using partnering for equity is a really good idea. Now, I've written 2 books on the subject. One, Build to Retire. Second one, Partnering for Equity. Details of these books will be below in the comments. And these will show you step by step how to achieve your goals. Now, hopefully, this has been of use to you. And, we do help a few small number of business owners to achieve this by joint venturing with you. And if this is something of help, I've also included my diary link so we can have a conversation. In between times, have a fantastic day and hopefully I'll speak to you real soon.